Hello everyone, McGee here with another draft battle analysis video and recap, this time looking at my week 3 match in the Purple Society against DD12345. I believe I got all the numbers on there, but apologies to them if I did not. So as it stands, I am 2-0 in this league, +9 differential, coming off a really solid win against the league admin Frandy, and looking to keep my undefeated season going. Historically, week threes have been the bane of my existence. That is usually what will end my undefeated streak. Have lost, I think, 4 or 5 leagues in week 3. I've had that match not go my way, so I'm trying to get past this one and just kind of deal with some bad history in that week. For whatever reason, it tends to be the week I lose a lot of matches. So, DD is someone that has been in a couple of my leagues. We have not, I believe, fought yet. This is, I think, the third league we have both been in, but this is our first matchup against each other. So we are peripherally aware of each other, but this is our first head-to-head. But before we get into the match, we're going to take a look at the team he drafted, the pieces he had available to him, and then the way I drafted to get around that. So he has the Mega Alakazam. Mega Alakazam is legal in this league. It cannot click Nasty Plot, but that's the only hindrance to it, which makes it a really potent mon because this league also does not allow for the cut moves, which most importantly includes Pursuit. So it's not a mon you can pursuit trap. It has a 150 speed stat, I think a 175 special attack stat. This thing is a sweeping machine if left unchecked, and it really, really threatens to tear me apart. Obviously, there's a very nice looking answer in the Umbreon, and we'll get to that when we get to my team, but there just isn't a lot of ways to defensively check Mega Alakazam, and so dealing with that is going to be trouble in this matchup. Tornadus, good regenerator, good pivoter, has some decent bulk and power to it. It does struggle a lot to break through something like an Umbreon, like a Pyukumuku, like a Mew, like a Corviknight, because it's required to click Heat Wave for the Corviknight. Not super concerned about it offensively, but it has a good ability to come in and check moves, really deny some damage power from something like my Infernape wanting to click a fighting move, so I expect that to be a hindrance in the match, but I don't necessarily expect it to be a stopper. Excadrill, in most matchups, is going to be a real threat and a real concern, but it has an absolutely awful matchup against Corviknight. That just is a mon that really shuts it down. So it really struggles to push through Corviknight in a reliable manner. It doesn't have Smackdown. It doesn't have any clean way to hit it for strong damage. It can't hit it for anything more than not very effective with its stab. So it's basically relying on Rock Slide to do damage and then maybe hope for some ridiculous levels of flinching to push through it. Really though, it's a really bad matchup for Excadrill, to the point I would not even be surprised if it didn't show up, but I will have to prep for it accordingly because, as you can see farther down, he has a Gigalith, so he does have Sand Mode. Gigalith does have Smackdown, so I need to be careful not to let Gigalith Smackdown and then hard switch into the Excadrill. But other than that, I'm not too nervous about that Sandcorn just because it has an awful time getting through Corviknight. Salazzle is a mon I see every now and again, and I always hate going against. It's not super scary for its offensive breaking power. Again, Umbreon pretty reliably checks that. Even Pyukumuku can to a degree. Nidoqueen can kind of check it, but it's that sub-toxic set that is really, really tough to deal with. I can't synchronize it back with Umbreon or Mew. I have a limited number of heal bells with Umbreon, and I've ran into this problem before, specifically with Umbreon. I think I've actually have a video on this where I talked about it. Umbreon only has 8 heal bells. Salazzle has 16 toxics. If Salazzle is able to commit to the sub play and sub toxic protect stall, I eventually lose enough heal bells where I poison out and it still has all its PP. And it can't miss because it's a poison type, so toxic always hits. Makes it really tough to deal with that set. I have made adjustments in this prep to consider that a little better, and we'll get to that again when we get to the Umbreon, because spoiler alert, the Umbreon is coming to this matchup, so we will address that when we get there. Zarude can be a scary mon, really struggles against Corviknight. there are bulk up options, but with a slow pivot with Corviknight is really easy to get into some of my speedier options to really deal with a bulk up set. And I have a lot of good U-turners for that 4 times damage. So I don't anticipate Zarude being an issue, let alone maybe not even coming, because again, it has such a bad matchup against the Corviknight. Gigalith, if it comes, it's coming with Excadrill for like a sand mode. Again, it's going to have to find a way to navigate the Corviknight. It's going to have to find a way to navigate what the Mew might be doing, or what the Nidoqueen might be doing, or what the Infernape might be doing. So it doesn't have an easy matchup, but there is some potential for it. Jellicent is the first Mon since basically Tornadus that I am confirmed and absolutely sure is coming. It's the most reliable way to check my Darmanitan because Icicle Crash is not very effective. U-turn isn't that effective. Earthquake isn't that effective. Flare Blitz isn't that effective. So it has a really nice time checking most Darmanitan's moves. And then with Cursed Body, it can really punish my Choice Lock sets because Darmanitan's pretty much always going to be Choice Locked because of Guerrilla Tactics. And so it's in a really nice position to shut most Darmanitan sets down and really minimize its ability to start clicking Icicle Crash pretty freely and start racking up that damage, because his resists for ice outside of that are basically non-existent. It's Salazzle, which isn't a resist, and then it's Rotom Frost, who doesn't want to come to a lot of matchups. The Slurpuff has some concern as like a Sticky Webber to give him good speed tiers. It's gonna force me into defog with the Corviknight when I bring that because I need to be checking that. The other set that makes me somewhat nervous, although again because me and DD have been peripherally watching each other in other leagues, he is aware of how I use Pyukumuku. He's aware of how I run Unaware. And so I don't expect that set to show up just because if I bring Pyukumuku, that set just gets absolutely walled and it's a waste of a belly drum. So I'm more concerned with sticky web sets, maybe some wish support sets that could be an issue, but I'm not overly concerned about its offensive power in this matchup. The Druddigon, not too worried. Glare, Stealth Rock, normal Druddigon things. My Darmanitan is using Icicle Crash, which isn't a contact move, so Druddigon isn't really addressing that in the way it wants to. So overall, not too worried about that. Audino actually offers some decent work as like a wish supporter. It can shut down special attacking Nidoqueen, shuts down Rotom Mow, can shut down special Altaria. So it has some value in this matchup, and it has that regenerator. The reason I don't like Audino here, and I don't think it's going to show up, is that a lot of his pieces struggle to safely hard switch in for the wishes. The Mega Alakazam doesn't have the bulk. The Excadrill doesn't have the bulk. The Salazzle doesn't really have the bulk. So those are his 3 best offensive pieces. They don't really have the bulk to be hard switching in for the wishes. And so he has to be really careful if he runs that, but it could show up. The Rotom Frost, which could be an alternative check to Darmanitan. I do have Flare Blitz, so I'm not super concerned about that. It offers some pressure against Mega Altaria, although it doesn't love the Pixelate Body Slams. And it has the speed tier to get past Nidoqueen, and if it wants to try to chance the Blizzard, it has some potency. And then Volt Switch offers some good opportunities against the Pyukumuku. It's really hard for me to switch in on the Rotom, just because my ground type is the Nidoqueen, but it has ice for it, so it makes it difficult. And then again, it's going to put some extra pressure on specially defensive Umbreon to answer that, but I'm not overly concerned about its offensive power. Could be something scary with like a trick set. That's something to watch out for. And then Palpitoad, don't have any expectation that shows up, but it is a Pokemon he has, so if it shows up, it shows up. With that in mind, we'll get into my team builds. Again, obviously Mew is coming. Calm set, 248 HP, 56 defense, 252 special defense. I couldn't find a Mew set I really liked, and this wasn't a bad set in the matchup, so I'm going back to my week 1 set of Cosmic Power, Stored Power, Soft Boiled, Body Press, obviously synchronized. I don't mind running this set again because I want to utilize other Mew sets, and I want people to over prep for this Mew set going forward, because I don't mind if they over prep for it, because there's a lot of other ways you can run Mew. And so if they get really honed in on this set, it leaves them vulnerable to other Mew sets. But after a Cosmic Power, I'm going to be out of 2-hit KO range from Shadow Ball unless it gets a special defense drop. After 2 Cosmic Powers, I pretty reliably want to KO Excadrill with Body Press. I do a lot to Zarude. I do a lot to Gigalith with Body Press. I do a lot to Audino, a lot to Rotom Frost with the Body Press. And then if I keep going with it, stored power obviously starts taking off as well, where it can start pushing through things like the Tornadus. I think probably after 2, definitely after 3, I get through Salazzle just fine. And then the Jellicent's the real concern because Taunt Jellicent has enough bulk to really stop this from taking off. So I need to get Jellicent mostly down or out of play before I can start going for it. And then really just kind of there as a late game cleaner. If the conditions are met and Jellicent is out of play, it really is positioned to be able to take over a late game scenario. Corviknight, Impish, pretty much the exact Corviknight I run all season. No reason to really change in this matchup. 248 HP, 252 defense, 8 special defense. That Rocky Helmet is really nice for Zarude, and then really nice for switch ins on Excadrill with like an Iron Head. So just really efficient. U-turn, body press, roost, defog. It doesn't actually deal with Slurpuff here. I'm basically assuming Slurpuff, the belly jump set, isn't going to show up, and if it is, I'm in a decent amount of trouble because this is my best answer to it, and it doesn't really answer it as well as you would like. I can run some roost and try to roost stall it out, and maybe hope that eventually it runs out of PP, or it just doesn't have Drain Punch and eventually dies to clicking attacks against it. But otherwise, it's really well positioned to handle this match. U-turn is good slow momentum. If the Alakazam tries to set up on a U-turn or comes in on this for some reason, it's going to eat massive damage. Body press really checks the sand core really well as pressuring Zarude or U-turn if I want that as well. And then again, just a really solid bulky defensive piece here. I am leaning into a defensive role for a lot of my pieces in this matchup. However, the one I am not is, or one of the ones I am not, is the Darmanitan. Jolly Nature, 252 attack, 36 defense, 20 special defense, 200 speed. So it's running that Choice Scarf, and at that speed tier, it's going to outspeed Scarf Excadrill in case he doesn't bring full sand, but he wants to run Scarf Excadrill because he feels like he can push through the Corviknight so that a Scarf Excadrill could take over late game. U-turn for momentum, as well as a reliable one-hit KO on the Mega Alakazam and the Zarude. Icicle Crash is my good old stab and late-game cleaner. Earthquake helps me a lot with Excadrill, Gigalith, the Salazzle, just as a safe-to-click move without contact. And then Lash Out, very specifically for the Jellicent. If I feel the Jellicent isn't Colbur Berry, I've gotten rid of the Colbur Berry, or Jellicent has a decent amount of chip, I can click Lash Out on a predictive switch-in, and that can do a decent job at 2-hit KOing it at that point. And so it's just a way to get Jellicent off the field and then enable Icicle Crash for late game. And that's generally it. I mean, it's what Darmanitan normally does. Nothing special about this set. Really just intended to clean up a game late once I get rid of that Jellicent, who really is going to be tough for me to address in this matchup. The Umbreon is running a Careful Nature, 252 HP, 4 attack, 252 defense, Crunch, Wish, Protect, Heal Bell. Like I said before, and if maybe you've seen that video in, I believe it was the Pokemon Grand Festival, I nearly lost to a Salazzle because I was running Foul Play and it ran its EVs and nature in a way where Foul Play wasn't breaking sub. Crunch is just a more reliable answer to that. It is also a more reliable answer to the Mega Alakazam, and it offers me defensive drop options, defensive drop potential for the Jellicent. So I have a way to maybe push through that if I start racking those up. Synchronize, and then I'm running the Choppleberry because with that Choppleberry, I am guaranteed a safe switch in on the Mega Alakazam. Focus Blast won't KO me again after it hits. I think it's to do like 25 to 27%, something like that, maybe up to 32%. But it doesn't do enough where a Focus Blast afterwards would KO me. So it really lets Umbreon come in safely on it. Guarantees me a chance to crunch it or wish if I expect it to flee. Just gives me a little bit of protection against that Mega Alakazam because it is really, really potent in this matchup. And then Heal Bell, just because Salazzle might Toxic Spam. He might throw some Will-O-Wisps or Scalds from the Jellicent might cause burn. So it just gives me a little bit of status protection in case one of my offensive pieces like the Darmanitan gets hit by something it doesn't want to get hit by. Otherwise, really intended to check the Mega Alakazam, the Salazzle, the Tornadus, really just check his special attackers as best as possible. The Infernape is a Jolly Nature, 24 HP, 252 attack, 232 speed, also running a Choice Scarf because speed is the name of the game here. If I can't outspeed Mega Alakazam, I'm in a bad spot. U-turn for momentum doesn't necessarily Oko Mega Alakazam, but it does a ton of chips, so just a really good way to break it down. Thunder Punch specifically for the Jellicent, but also helps with the Tornadus. Mach Punch for priority in case the Excadrill is running in sand mode, and it is in sand, and I have it like around 50% or so. Mach Punch is a good way to KO that in case for whatever reason I lose Corviknight, I still have an answer to it. And then Close Combat is one of my more spammable attacks. Pretty reliably hits KOs Excadrill outside of it. Pretty reliably KOs the Zarude, the Gigalith, the Audino, the Rotom Frost. He really does have a fighting weakness, so Close Combat can be pretty spammable because if the Tornadus is out of play and the Jellicent is out of way, it starts to become a really potent move. Alongside my Darmanitan, he's really intended as kind of a late game cleaner, really helps to address those. So if I can get rid of a couple of those defensive pieces, he really helps close out a game. And then I believe finally the Mega Altaria with an Adamant Nature, 32 HP, 252 attack, 20 defense, 4 special defense, 200 speed. I believe the speed is helping me creep, or no, the speed is so that at +1, I am going past the Tornadus. Even if I were to run Jolly max speed, I don't outspeed the Mega Alakazam at +1, so there wasn't any point in doing anything for that on the assumption that he would check that calc. And so I am just opting to get past the Tornadus at +1, and then obviously at +2, I would get past the Mega Alakazam. Dragon Dance, Body Slam, Earthquake, Roost, really, really potent sweep set. If given the opportunity to Dragon Dance twice, I pretty reliably push through everything. Depending on Jellicent's investment, I can potentially one-hit KO with Body Slam at +2. I KO the Mega Alakazam pretty easily. I don't think I even need a boost to do that. It's just that weak of a mon. I probably need to get past things like Tornadus and Gigalith. I don't know that Earthquake at +2 would KO Gigalith, but if things get chipped down and I'm able to get a couple of Dragon Dances in, this kind of just sweeps the game. Not a lot can stop it. And then really just intended as a closer, really hoping to utilize it to help break through the Jellicent a little bit. Body Slam offers me that paralysis opportunity on the Jellicent, which, could allow a chip down Jellicent to be beaten by Icicle Crash Darmanitan, just because I have the flinch potential plus the paralysis potential, so I can lean into RNG if I need to in those situations. Ideally, I'm hoping not to, but this is really one of my better answers to Jellicent because Jellicent is just going to be such a problem in this matchup. Perhaps I should have looked at Mew sets that better address the Jellicent, but it is what it is. This is one of my other answers. It can pretty freely click Body Slam all at once, and then his team doesn't like dealing with that paralysis. Really only Rotom Frost can switch in safely on Body Slams. Maybe Druddigon if he brings it, but Druddigon is just eating massive damage, so it's not a great answer. But that's the team. That's what I am going for in this matchup. Trying to hold the line with the Umbreon and the Corviknight, fishing for opportunities for those Darmanitan and Darmanitan and Infernape to kind of pivot around, do some damage, and then maybe try to get some sweeps going with either the Mega Altaria or the Mew, whatever opens up first. So that's the game plan. That's kind of what I'm going for. I'm going to shift it over now to the battle. I think I got it right this week. All right, so he did not bring anything necessarily super surprising in this matchup. We've got the Mega Alakazam, the Salazzle, the Tornadus, the Jellicent. Slurpuff is slightly surprising. Didn't expect that to come. Do have concerns about sticky webs that might, slow me down because it forces me to defog a lot, but not overly concerning. And then the Rotom Frost is definitely a surprise. I did not pack Flare Blitz on the Darmanitan. My expectation is that it wouldn't show up, so I didn't pack a move to really punch it hard. I will be relying on U-turn to damage it if my Darmanitan is forced to 1v1 it. But that's the plan. I see this team. I see a really safe leadoff for Darmanitan to scout because no Excadrill means no sand, which means he's not likely to run Scarf on the Salazzle or the Tornadus. I have to be somewhat wary of it, but I'm not expecting it. But we're going to get into this leadoff. So, like I said, I go the Darmanitan. I'm going to U-turn here. I know there's potential for a Rocky Helmet, but this is a way to confirm it early game, and I do have Wish support, so it's not like the end of the world if Darmanitan takes some early game chip. Just kind of helps me confirm with what I'm dealing with. Does not show Rocky Helmet, which is fine by me. Has Recover. It's not a mon that can freely click Toxic either, because it needs to be wary of two synchronized users, which is really a fun aspect of my team. Is synchronized on two viable mons makes it really difficult for non-steals or poisons to click Toxic or any other status move in general. There's just a lot of risk to getting that mon slapped back with the status, which is fun for me. Clicking Crunch. Crunch is unfortunately Umbreon's only a damaging move, and then it gets taunted, so I can only struggle with Umbreon at this point, forced to switch out into the Altaria. Not expecting Scald, expecting another Recover. I'm just going to go straight for a Body Slam, just try to fish for early game paralysis. It's to my advantage to try to get that early. Slurpuff shows Leftovers, which is the ideal item for it to show. I don't want to be dealing with the setup set, even though I've done a lot of chip at this point. It's still a scary thing to deal with. So having that out of the way is nice. Means it's not going to be a great damager. I could potentially go for a Dragon Dance here. Probably should, but it's early game still, and I want to be cautious about throwing away one of my better breaking pieces, especially when that Jellicent is still at full health. So I'm going to retreat into Corviknight, who's a safe answer. He yawns. I should assume it's a protect set with Wish at this point, but I gamble anyway and try to U-turn. Backfires. Corviknight falls asleep. Not ideal. Not the end of the world either. I do have Heal Bell. Going to click it again just to get rid of one of the bad sleep turns. Hard pivot into Umbreon, which Salazzle does sub. Like I said, this was the set that concerned me most, but I did bring Crunch to help deal with that this week, so I'm a little more prepared than usual. It goes for Nasty Plot, which is actually more ideal than Toxic, because that can really slow me down, whereas I can damage this Salazzle pretty well. He subs again. I don't think my guess is he thought he would not have his sub broken by the crunch, and so he thought maybe I got a high roll. But I crunch again, I break it again, kind of forces him into a bad spot. I crunch once again, and then I get that defense drop, which is huge, forces Salazzle out, even though it's not going to be KO'd by the next crunch, most likely. It's just a concerning spot for him to be. Dazzling Gleam doesn't do that much. It's a free opportunity for me to click Heal Bell, get my Umbreon back to full health. I'm going to hard switch into the Corviknight because I didn't expect to have to deal with that Rotom. Forces me back into the Umbreon, which is fine. Just chip I don't want to take. Chose Volt Switch, probably not a trick set, which is ideal for me. The Slurpuff comes back. I'm going to hard switch into the Corviknight, which it yawns, so I'm going to hard switch into the Altaria, I believe, just so I don't get caught by Protect again. He's going to continue to yawn. I'm going to continue to hard switch. It's the safe thing for me to do. I don't want to get stuck with a status. And I'm going to hard switch into Mew in case he Dazzling Gleamed that time, but he goes for a Protect. Hard switch back into the Corviknight. Just kind of dance around this as much as possible. U-turn because I have a higher natural speed stat than that. Might as well in case he hard switched again. Umbreon's going to come back out, which is fine. Umbreon needed an opportunity to click Wish safely. So this gives me that window. Slurpuff comes back. Slurpuff's going to Dazzling Gleam, which is fine. I'm not going to eat too much chip from that. I'm going to crunch just to waste a turn, maybe fish for a defensive drop. Don't get it. So it's a hard switch back to Corviknight, who I believe is going to get Dazzling Gleam, which is good. So I don't have any speed investment. Slurpuff has, I think, like a 77 or 72, some kind of speed stat in the 70s. Corviknight's is only a 67, so this gives me the slow momentum I was looking for to get into my Darmanitan, to at least pressure it and try to create an opportunity. I'm going to U-turn, which is fine. I underspeed him, so I can U-turn safely. I go into Darmanitan. I know he's going to Protect Scout on this turn to see what Darmanitan's move is, because he knows Darmanitan is almost certainly going to be Guerrilla Tactics, so whatever move I click is the move I'm locked into. I click Icicle Crash, he protects. I know he's going to switch into Jellicent on this turn, so I'm going to hard switch into the Mega Altaria so that I can get a Dragon Dance going and try to get some breaking power here. It taunts, which is fine. I've already gotten one boost in. The Body Slam is going to do 79%. Unfortunately, that disable is really significant, really takes away my breaking power because now he can come in with a Slurpuff and eat the Earthquake without taking too much damage. So he gets a decent amount of chip. I'm going to flee into my Umbreon here to get a Heal Bell off as soon as possible. I believe I'm going to Wish this turn. And then I'm going to talk about this next turn for a second because you're not going to understand it or not going to see what went into this next turn on the battle replay. So I have a habit of when I play opponents, I try to click as quickly as possible, make a quick decision on my move. that I feel comfortable with. It's a strategy I've been employing for a long time to pretty solid success. And then if my opponent reacts quickly, then it's usually reacting to what I thought they were going to do. So it's fine. If my opponent starts to take a while with a turn, I will, by habit, unclick the move I've clicked and consider my options again, because now they are looking at a move I maybe wasn't giving enough consideration. They might be doing something I wasn't aware of. So, in the context of this turn, when this first happened, I was looking at clicking Crunch or clicking Heal Bell to get my Mega Altaria the toxic status or get rid of that toxic status. But because he took so long on that turn, I had second guessing about what that last move was for the Slurpuff because we haven't seen it, and that made me concerned that we were debating so long on what he was going to do. So I unclicked the heal bell and I clicked protect because I wasn't sure what he was doing anymore, and he was taking a very long time on that turn. So I no longer trusted my first read, and I went with protect to be safe about scouting it, which pays off because that move was Misty Explosion, which would have KO'd the Umbreon, but instead I get no damage on the Umbreon, and I get rid of that Slurpuff, which had really been a nuisance to the Umbreon, made it really hard for Umbreon to be effective. So now that's out of play. But that was just a little context on the some of the strategies I have with decision making. I like to pick my moves quickly, and then that gives me time to consider what my opponent might do if they don't go with their first read, and if they take too long, then I start to believe that my first guess might be wrong, and then I reassess. And it paid off in that particular circumstance. Mega Alakazam comes in, but I'm not scared of that because of the Choppleberry, which it focus blasts. I only eat 26%. I'm going to do 75% on the crunch, get the defense drop for all that's worth. I'm going to click Wish here because I know the next focus blast wasn't going to kill me. I know there's a decent chance it misses, and so I can get a lot with that. I'm going to Heal Bell here because Altaria is now a really good closer if I can get a Dragon Dance back in. And I'm just going to start crunching this Salazzle. I'm not concerned about it. I see I was barely doing enough to break that sub, 25%, 28%. So it seems like my low rolls were just enough to break sub, which is good. I'm going to lose Umbreon here, which no longer concerns me because there's no good way that Alakazam is getting health back. I have two good U-turn spammers with the Infernape Darmanitan as offensive pieces, slow U-turn with the Corviknight, and then a Dragon Dance option with the Mega Altaria. All of that makes it really difficult for Mega Alakazam to get that health back at any point in time. I click Thunder Punch here because honestly, that's my only move to click, which he doesn't know. He's probably thinking I'm going to click maybe a fire move or a fighting move or something like that. But I click Thunder Punch because it's the safest move all around. Rotom Frost doesn't want to hard switch in on Infernape in case I click Stab. So really, Thunder Punch kind of guaranteed me really good damage here. Gets rid of the Jellicent, which is really big for me because now I'm pretty free to click Icicle Crash on 3 of the 4 of these Mons, and he doesn't have a long-term solution in the Rotom Frost. I'm going to send in Corviknight here. I expect it has Heat Wave, but I no longer care about Corviknight's survivability. The pieces left, Corviknight doesn't really address. And this gets into endgame strategy a lot, which I think people can mishandle, is it's important to know what pieces you can throw away to get momentum back. So momentum sacks is kind of the terminology I use. It's throwing away a piece to get a piece on the field safely, which is going to exert a lot of pressure. In this case, I wanted to get Darmanitan on the field safely. Corviknight survives, which is great. Didn't care whether it survived or not. Only goal there was to create a safe window for Darmanitan to hit the field safely like it did. He knows I'm probably Scarfed, so he's going to predictively flee to the Rotom Frost, which is just a really easy U-turn for me to click. Rotom Frost gets obliterated by that, loses most of its health. I know, again, he's going to flee the Rotom Frost on the Infernape expecting a stab attack. I get to freely click U-turn because I don't have fire, which gets me back into the Darmanitan. And I know from earlier this isn't Scarf because it clicked 2 moves, so Icicle Crash is free. Rotom Frost comes in. Icicle Crash doesn't KO it, but it does enough where I'm not going to be too worried about it. And even if Icicle Crash hadn't KO'd it there, and I had gotten, maybe killed by Thunderbolt or something like that, my Infernape comes in and spams close combat and wins this game. 25% is going to die to close combat on the Mega Alakazam. Same with Salazzle, and this has too low of health. So I'm not too worried about the misses or my chance to get KO'd back. Icicle Crash again because that's safe to click. And then, I'm choice locked into it. And then Icicle Crash to finish it off. And that kind of wraps it up. So it's a 5-0 win. Doesn't fully reflect how close the mid game was. If I had gotten that Misty Explosion turn wrong, obviously my Umbreon is out of play, which enables the Mega Alakazam to pressure a little harder because it has full health to work with. Didn't need to use Mew in this matchup, which is fine. I really wasn't feeling great about that Mew set. I just couldn't find a better option. And then I finally got my Darmanitan to take off the way I hoped it would, which was as a late game closer. And so really, really happy with the Darmanitan play in this matchup. Really happy he kind of got to be that closer that I envisioned him being, which is I chip down a couple of pieces I need to chip down. I take out maybe the 1.5 checks counters that he has, and then he kind of just goes berserk and closes out a game. So really, really happy with that. I moved to 3-0 on the season, positive 14. Cannot complain. Really happy with how this team is coming together. Really hoping to continue to get more out of it as the weeks go forward. I'm realizing now at the end I forgot to, remove mods as they got eliminated. So let's do that really quickly just so that it's all very nice and visual for everyone else. Jellicent didn't survive. Slurpuff didn't survive. Tornadus didn't survive. Rotom Frost didn't survive. Salazzle didn't survive. Mega Alakazam didn't survive. And Umbreon, despite being the MVP and doing so much in this matchup, also didn't survive. Rest in peace, little Umbreon. So, uh, what is it, 3-0, positive 14. Really happy with how things are going. I just played my week 4 battle, so I'm hoping to get that uploaded and done in the next day or two. So stay tuned for that. And then I will continue to keep up to date with this league as we go forward.